You kids are so spoiled these days. Literally just a few years ago, all greens tasted like trash. Now there's a lot of really great flavors. And even if you don't want to do that, you can get them in a pack form from Animal. Literally begs the question, why are you not taking greens? So I recently switched over to animal greens from drinking greens, and not to say that there are bad flavors out there right now. There actually are a lot of really competitive flavors I think that are really impressive. At the end of the day, I drink a lot of different drinks throughout the day, and it's just a little bit more convenient for me to currently be using a pack. That might change in the future, but currently got a little bit more into the pill scene for this. So I put together a little stack of Unilever and greens for a couple different reasons I'm going to talk about today. And I wanted to highlight kind of why I'm adding this into my stack. Currently, I'm in a really heavy training phase. There's a lot of intensity going on. There's a lot of volume. I'm doing something completely different than what I normally have been at, trying to get to a strength level that I've never been at before. And honestly, I never really thought I'd be the guy talking about greens, especially as I'm not a super heavyweight, but I'm a 275-pound class power lifter with an 1,800-pound total that eats a lot of meat and carbohydrates. Well, now that I say it out loud, it makes sense for why I'd be talking about greens, is that I don't eat a lot of greens, right? It's just hard to get in when you're focusing so much on those other macronutrients. It's hard to get into the micronutrients. So the Animal's pack of greens has been a lot easier to kind of get into. But while researching kind of like why I wanted to get greens into my diet and why it was important for me, I actually stumbled upon a couple pretty interesting different things. And I kind of wanted to share that with you guys today, mostly really revolving around chlorophyll. Now, I did a little bit of a breakdown on this greens a couple months ago when we were talking about it coming out and kind of how it was different and stuff. The main real big factor is that it is focused around convenience, right? You're getting them in pills instead of a powder. You know, Animal jokes about greens tasting like trash. I don't really agree with that because there's a lot of really great flavors out there. At the end of the day, chlorophyll doesn't really taste all that great though, and they're not wrong. Like, greens are still going to have a greens taste to them. So if you're completely averse to that, these pills are available and they're still efficacious and work. Now, there's a lot of different ingredients in here. There's a whole animal phytonutrient antioxidant complex. There's a prebiotic and digestive blend, and that's all really important. But what I'm really interested here is the Animal Greens Food Blend, which has a few different ingredients that are high in chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a really important ingredient. Obviously, it's helpful for things like photosynthesis for plants. But here at PricePlow, we are performance-based. You know, we do talk about metabolic health and fat loss and stuff like that, but we talk a lot about, well, our motto is where the science meets the iron, right? It's where athletes can find the information on how to perform better, and that's really what I'm focusing on here today. Why is greens and Unilever alongside going to help with performance? Well, chlorophyll has a tons of different data on being performance boosting. But one really cool thing that I found was an interesting comparison of chlorophyll to actual hemoglobin. A lot of people call chlorophyll green blood because it looks so similar to hemoglobin. Now, chlorophyll is in a class of things called tetrapyrols. They're 5-sided rings with nitrogen configured around a central metal atom. Now, there are several types of these molecules with heme and cobalamin in this structure. The difference is the metal on the inside. So cobalamin, vitamin B12, contains a cobalt in the middle. That's where the co comes from. Heme obviously is iron. You obviously deal a lot with iron with blood. And chlorophyll is magnesium. Now, magnesium is huge for athletes, and that's pretty obvious why this is going to play a big deal here. Obviously, all of these things are important metals that need to be delivered to the body, but chlorophyll has some very unique properties for itself. So there's been a solid series of research on chlorophyll ever since back to 1979. So a nice way of talking about where this all started is uncontrolled cell proliferation. It's a nice way of saying cancer, that word that we're really not supposed to talk about in supplements. And I'm not going to get too far into that, but that's kind of what started a lot of this research. So researchers actually saw that a wheat extract inhibited the metabolic activity of carcinogens. Now, they identified the main active constituent in that wheat extract as chlorophyll, starting all of this research. Now, chlorophyllin is one of the main compound's derivatives. It's been shown to be protective of mitochondria in the wake of oxidative damage. But on top of that, it's also really protective to cells from damage from other things like electrophiles, which are a big part of degenerative diseases, but don't get a lot of press time, honestly. Most interestingly, it's also really protective against cells from gamma radiation, which is obviously what made the Hulk, but also something that we want to stay away from the damages from. While we all would like to probably be the size of the Hulk, being green and angry is not a great time. Now, what's really interesting is that After chlorophyll activates phase 2 enzymes, one of the things that is most efficient at, the body is so much better at removing lactic acid, something that we hear a lot about with beta alanine, stuff like that. For endurance and athletic purposes, this is a huge deal. This is going to help the body's ability to regenerate ATP within muscles, creating energy for training and activating and contracting muscle cells. And once those phase 2 enzymes are activated, they're even going to slow down the continued production of lactic acid, allowing you to train even longer and harder, adding sets and reps to your exercises, and which is obviously a huge tool for producing hypertrophy. So with that all said, that is one of the major compounds and reasons why animal greens is so important, or really any greens that are worth their weight in dosing. Spirulina is a large percent protein, but not a normal protein that you'd be looking for maybe muscle growth, but actually a protein bound to a specific pigment, C-phycocyanin, which has numerous anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, which are super helpful for athletic purposes as well. There's also a lot of carotenoids within spirulina, zeaxanthin, high bioavailability beta carotene, and more chlorophyll. Now, spirulina is really helpful for lipid profiles. It's not really something that's super sexy to talk about, but if you are an active athlete, if you're using any sort of PED, which if you are a hardcore athlete in that kind of brand, you might be needing to think about that. But spirulina has multiple studies on actual power output and endurance increases as well. Obviously, these ingredients have been used a long time in those whole food, superfood type ingredients. But when we're talking about power output, we're talking about actual supplement science, meeting the iron. This stuff is killer for performance. Now, if we change gears and go over to wheatgrass, this is also another carrier of chlorophyll. All the ingredients that we're going to talk about here, or most of them, are going to be carriers of that green blood that we talked about to start with. But one of the most exhaustive reviews of wheatgrass supplementation was published in 2015. It was called The Medical Use of Wheatgrass, Review of the Gap Between Basic and Clinical Applications. And again, I'll remind you guys, if you aren't really into watching videos, you can always run over to our blog. I use these things as a bit of an outline and a bit of a references for studies. But that review showed a lot of great things about wheatgrass. And obviously, it covered everything from chlorophyll to chlorophyllin. But in basic human clinical studies, they found huge benefits in everything from decreased joint pain, improved digestion, metabolic enhancements, and of course, antioxidant profiles. Not all of this is going to translate straight over to more strength, more endurance, and stuff like that. But a lot of these things have downstream benefits, whether it's improving your blood work, which is going to improve your results overall, or improving your training capacity, which is going to give you better tools to train. Now, last one here is obviously a big one, Chlorella. Chlorella is a freshwater algae, which sounds a little bit disgusting, but you're getting it in pill form here, so you're not really even tasting it. But it's really high in iron and B12, which is important if you're a vegan or vegetarian athlete. I don't think we have a lot of you guys watching these videos, but if you are, this is a big one. Although I'm sure you're already eating a lot of greens. I don't know if you really need to get more pills of it. Now, for a plant-based source, Chlorella is actually really high in leucine. I'm sure you're not really coming to this for a leucine source, but that is important to note. But most of the benefits here from Chlorella are, you probably guessed it, being a source of chlorophyll. One study showed actual fat loss, not just weight loss, but fat loss as well in Chlorella usage. Another study showed decreased blood pressure, which if you are a heavier or larger, stronger athlete, that might be a concern for you. But one of the big angles on this one is going to be detoxification. Chlorella has a very high ability to absorb metals within its environment. So there's some animal studies on mercury accumulation in the brain and helping out with that. But this is really important because in a lot of different sources of food in our today's environment or supplements, you're getting heavy metals. So this is important to make sure that you're taken care of. And so that's it for animal greens. You get all these different benefits in just a unique pack. You got a few pills in here that's easy to take first thing in the morning. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that I'm also taking Unilever with it. Unilever has been a really big product for me all the way back to probably 2012, I believe. As nutrient dense as greens is, there's the other side of it being the animal side that is just as, if not more nutrient dense, Argentinian beef liver. If you know anything about organ meat, it is super, super, super dense in micronutrients and very, very important. I don't know about you though. I'm not cooking up liver and onions every day in a pan and eating them. I'm most often eating my meal prep, going meal to meal and moving on with my day. I don't have a lot of time for variations from that. I don't have a lot of time for different types of meals and stuff. I get my fish oil for my omegas instead of cooking salmon twice a day. And so parallel to that, I'm using my liver pills to get things that I would normally getting from organ meats. Together, I feel a lot stronger on this stuff. I know it is not like an anabolic. It's not a muscle builder. It's not stuff that you're going to feel right away. It's not even a stimulant, which you're going to feel in the acute. But this kind of stuff I see as a really important backbone to my supplementation. And I think it's really important to make sure that you're spending time on these actual base products, taking care of your digestion, taking care of your micronutrients, taking care of your hormones, taking care of your inflammation. This is just one part of a larger stack that could be applicable to you depending on your lifestyle. Hey, if you eat a lot of greens, if you eat a lot of organ meats, this might not apply to you. For me, it does, because those aren't part of my normal lifestyle. And so it helps me out a lot. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's been informative. It's been an interesting research for me. And I think that it actually is helping me out a lot. I just had a huge PR in my squat. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you might have seen me working up to that over the last couple months. And we're pushing forward into a pretty huge total, hopefully coming soon. So all of this stuff is the base that I build upon with my diet, with my nutrition, with my recovery, all of this different stuff. But these small micronutrients play a huge role in the overall long-term health and goals of mine. So as always, guys, I have to say thank you so much for making this far in the video. I do have to say also, Animal did send me these for free. Universal, Animal, same brand. And we also have a business affiliate relationship with them. So if you purchase them with coupon code PricePlow, we get a little bit of a commission out of that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk about them below. Animal's been one of my favorite brands for so long. I love talking about the brand. I love supporting them. In any case, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Welcome to PricePlow.